Hello, everyone. I am Mercedes Price Harry, the chair of the Lee County GOP. Welcome to this episode of the Chairs Chat. Today, I've brought in Lance Wissinger, and Lance Wissinger is a precinct committee man with the Lee County GOP. He's also a volunteer usher, and he's also heavily involved in a myriad of different things in terms of not just conservative issues, but just really great issues that you have sort of picked up along the way with your personal journey. And so I wanted to share today, share Lance with everybody today so that we can not only educate everybody on the type of people, the type of incredible people with great stories that we have in the executive committee, but also how they can get involved in some of the things that you're passionate about, because we all have common interests, and those are the things I'm trying to focus on. Where do we align? What do we have in common? And how can we lift each other up? So great, Lance, tell me, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's start with you. Let's talk a little bit about you. So tell me about you growing up and sort of what laid down the foundation for your conservative and Republican principles, and
Sure.
where you're from.
Yeah. So again, thank you for having me. This is a pleasure. Grew up just outside of Toledo, Ohio, Northwest Ohio, in a little town called Walbridge. And grew up on a horse farm. My grandparents had the original farmhouse. My parents built a house next door. So I kind of grew up in a sitcom. Okay. Had one of the most amazing families, one of the most amazing childhoods. Didn't have to worry about anything. Traveled the country. Did all kinds of great stuff. Wow. Just had the idyllic childhood. Hollywood couldn't have written a better script for how I grew up.
You're blessed.
Very much so. Just two loving parents that just were there for us for everything. So grew up, went to college, got a little out of control when I went to college.
Yeah. It happens. It happens. You know, when life's too good, sometimes you go to college and you get crazy. Got
distracted and decided that college wasn't quite working for me, so I got into the restaurant industry. Started working with at my friend's parents' restaurant and became a chef through all of that, and traveled the country doing that for a while. Ended up in Boulder, Colorado, and worked at one of the best restaurants in Boulder, and that's where I really learned my craft. And then it was April of 2003 when Jessica Lynch was rescued.
Yeah.
That was the day I went and signed up for the Air Force.
Wow.
Yeah. So decided to join the Air Force that day. Because I had been training and lived in Colorado, I wanted to go into the Special Forces Pararescue. And so passed all my tests.
I didn't know that about you.
Did everything I was supposed to do, and was in a delayed entry program because they only take people for pararescue twice a year, May and November. And I had signed up in April. I wanted to come down here to Florida to spend some time with my dad before he passed away because he was getting really sick at the time. And in that delayed entry program time period, I ended up getting in a car accident and
and the course of your life changed. Yeah.
So I had this idyllic childhood all the way up into I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to jump out of airplanes and go rescue people, and God had a different plan for me. And so I was at a baseball game. I was at a Fort Myers Miracle game, and had a couple beers at the game. Drove home and killed my friend in a car accident.
And how old were you?
24. So, and this was in September, and I was supposed to leave for boot camp in November.
Wow.
So I never even I was just canceled. I woke up in the hospital with two staff sergeants and a major wanting to talk to me about it, and along with the Florida Highway Patrol wanting to question me about it. Everything's, in and out, blurry. Sure. But I remember most everything about it. So went through all of those things, and like I said, I lost my friend, and I have a tattoo.
You went to federal prison?
I went to state prison.
State prison.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So federal, it depends on the charge. Just federal's a little nicer.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
So county's definitely the worst.
Okay.
And then state's a little better, and then federal, they call it club fed. So it's the nicest of. If you're gonna go.
Wow. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Tell us about the tattoo on your back.
Yeah, so I have a tattoo on my back of a shamrock because that was my friend's favorite. He was a Notre Dame fan, so so not only is it his favorite team, but it's also my cross to bear. So I bear that cross every day and carry it on my back. Yeah, so he really pushes me forward to do bigger and better things than I could have ever done. Yeah. So 3.5 years I was out on bond waiting to go to my hearing. Got into a pretty depressed spot in my life, and got alcohol was never really a problem for me. It was just I had some beers at the game, and that so after that happened, I kind of quit drinking.
Yeah, you think? Yeah.
And then, but I didn't want to be here anymore. So I was going through this major depression, and I was essentially trying to party myself to death, where I was using drugs, being around people I shouldn't have been around, just living a lifestyle of like, I don't care about the consequences at this point, because I'm looking at 15 years of prison, and I'm 25 years old going through this. So I'm like,
and you don't realize that 25, you're a baby.
Yeah,
you have 3 lifetimes, 2 lifetimes to go.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go through all of that. I end up being sentenced to a 10-year sentence. It was 5 years in prison, 5 years on probation. I did 4 years and 3 months total in the prison system. And honestly, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. So I went through the system with the mentality that I was going through the military. So I took that mentality that I had of going into the Air Force, and I used that to get through the prison system. So the first couple of years were pretty rough. It's really hard trying to figure out how you're going to get through this. It's a lot of scary people. And then I got in trouble because I could not produce a urine sample for a drug test in a certain amount of time. I was clean. I wasn't doing anything. Like, I was doing everything I could to get home as early as possible. Yeah. And but I couldn't produce any amount of time. So they put me in confinement for 60 days. And in that 60 days, that's where God found me. God came to me, and we had a real long conversation about dealing with my demons. And I tell people in solitary, you either deal with your demons or your demons are going to deal with you.
Yeah.
And I wrote myself letters. I had really in-depth conversations with God. I called it my ashram, my prayer room. And I just meditated for days. And in that time period, I realized, if this is as bad as it gets, this whole system's a joke. Like, there's I'm in jail,
Yeah,
and so it's like, and I was like, this is dumb. Like, it was kind of nice actually to like just be removed from it, but there's no access to phones. You don't get to have the contact with your family. So once I got out of that, I had a whole different outlook of what the prison system was. And so I started to ask more questions. I started to get involved. I tried to help people as much as possible. So we started 6 programs in the state of Florida as inmates, where we brought them in. We brought Toastmasters in so we could do public speaking. And I started that because job interviews, we were at a work release center, and guys were not being able to get their jobs. And so we started practicing job interviews. So we brought Toastmasters in. We brought SCORE and the SBA in to write business plans. So we wrote 18 business plans with guys that went out and started their own business after they were released. Another program called Malachi Dads, that was a Christian program with the Boca Raton Community Church. And it was a program to have a better relationship with your children when you come home. Well, I don't have any children, so I said, can I do it from the child's perspective so I can go home and like have a better relationship with my family? And they really enjoyed that. And so there was me and 5 other guys that did that program. The pastor was so impressed with what we did that he came to us one day. He's like, I can't get you tickets to the game, but I can take you to the breakfast the day before the Super Bowl with the teams.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'm in prison.
I'd almost rather do that.
I'm in prison and get to go to this Super Bowl breakfast where we get to see Kurt Warner win the Bart Starr Award and meet some of the players. Like, I'm in prison doing these things. So that's why I'm saying, like, my experience in prison is very unique, but it's because I went in with the mentality is I'm going to get something out of this.
Yeah.
And
because
so
you got to go anyway.
Right. So we did all these things. And so when I came home on probation, trying to find my footing, I went back to the restaurant industry. One of the other things, there was a culinary program.
Yeah, tell us about this. This is kind of cool.
The culinary program, it was already established at the facility. Me and another guy were actual professional chefs, and we're able to like kind of boost it up a little bit. And we were good enough that we convinced the director that we should compete in the Chef of the Americas competition. So it was 32 teams, 16 countries, and North and South America. And nobody had any idea we were from a prison. We won a silver medal.
No way.
Isn't that cool?
Can you watch this on TV or find it online?
You used to be able to find the article about it on Charisma magazine, but there's a paywall now, so it's hard to find.
Yeah. Okay.
But
That's
somewhere
cool.
out there's a goofy picture of me and my toque and these big goofy prison glasses, and I'm holding a dish.
Chains around your ankles.
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
So we had chef's clothes on, so we were allowed to do that, and we were allowed to walk around the expo, which was pretty neat. And we had a officer with us that we were all plain clothes. Like I said, nobody knew, and we were minimum security at this point. Like we're at work release, we're already going out the
I'm
gate.
sure they wouldn't have let you go if you hadn't proven that you could be trusted.
So we go down, we win a silver medal, and got a lot of really cool notoriety for that, and a couple articles, and I think for this article I saw, I think the Sun Sentinel or something in Chicago picked it up, and I was like, this is cool.
That is cool.
So we got to do that. So all these different things came about just because I asked.
Sure.
None of these things were really available, but I saw opportunity in it. And so we asked, and so now I've done that same thing in my personal life where I've come home, I've gotten involved in the Lee County Reentry Task Force for the Sheriff's Department. So I'm on that, and I get to help them. And we started to build a mentor program a couple years ago, and then I moved away to do another job up in Tampa. Now that I'm back, we're hoping that we can get something like that started again next year.
That's awesome.
So I've been talking with the lieutenant there about hopefully bringing that back, where people like myself that have found success on the outside will go in and directly mentor people the last 8 weeks that they're in jail. And the first 2 weeks is just us getting to know each other. And then we have financial planning classes through a bank. We have different organizations that can come in and interview for jobs so that you can walk out with a job rather than...
that's great. I think they do that in the military world too, where they like acclimate you to the civilian life.
There's a lot of similarities between prison and the military.
I bet.
As the transitioning out of it, because that's
like the regiment and the regiment, the regimen, and then for sure, because it is completely different. In fact, one of my coworkers is a veteran. Two of my coworkers are veterans, and one of them was talking to me yesterday because she lost one of her friends to suicide, and one of her veteran Army friends to suicide, and she was talking to me about how like the difference between the life that she had in the military compared to now, and how she feels, it's just, it's definitely a transition is my point. So anyhow, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just, I've had a couple conversations, one with a local state rep about like, if there's a better way to do a transition program for people coming out of the prison system, but to include the veterans in this program, and to include, funny enough, professional sports athletes, because they've been training the same way their entire life, that when they're done, they don't necessarily know how to transition into... How do
you fill that all that stuff you were doing?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's all about like dedicating your life to something, where prison, you didn't dedicate it, but your life is dedicated to that style. But people have dedicated their lives to a certain style of living, and then they come home and they're like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of similarities between those three groups of people that I would love to be able to put something together, help lower depression rates, help lower, mental illness, PTSD. PTSD is huge across all of those, and so there's a lot of different things that we can do to make things better for people, because I want people to come home and be a full citizen again. I want people to be a taxpayer and not just living
a productive person.
Right.
Because when you're productive and you have purpose, then you're a happy person. And if our community is full of people that are happy and confident and have faith and purpose, it's good for all of us. And what I love about what you do is everything that you do is what you do. You're not running all the time for a government solution. And so that's why I want to bring people like you in from the executive committee. I want the community to see all of the incredible things that we do as Republicans in Lee County, separate from what we do on behalf of the country and our love for country. But there are so many ways for us to be productive and to move our society forward on our own time, doing our own thing with our own passions, and the government is not always the answer, right? And if we're the Republicans, we need to live that. Like the government is not always the answer. But go ahead. So you were a silver medal winner in the chef contest. You come out, you've done quite a few things since then. And so talk to us a little bit about your time here at the executive committee. Why are you involved in the executive committee? And, help us bring some folks in. What else can we do with the executive committee? And then kind of where you are today.
Yeah. So I'll start with how I got involved in politics altogether.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I got into real estate around here in Southwest Florida. I went from being a chef to a realtor, and I will not ever sell real estate again. It's not my thing.
Really, I think you're such a likable person.
I am a little too likable.
Well, okay.
So I'm a little too nice when it comes to that. I'm not cutthroat enough for
I
it.
can see that.
Which is funny that I'm in politics, because like when it comes to real estate, I really want to get people to be happy and in their homes and all these things. And it's like, I just want them to be happy, and it doesn't quite always work. When it comes to politics, it's like, these are the things I know I need to get done.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a good experience with real estate, but I started to go to city council meetings. I got involved in the Citizens Academy over in Cape Coral. And so I started to learn, because I wanted to represent the city as best as possible if people were going to be moving here.
Sure.
So I wanted to know everything that I could. So I was a very informative realtor. It's just when it came to getting the deal done or trying to negotiate, I was just like, man, let's just like, this is what we got.
Right.
Like,
Lance is the guy taking the phone call at 2 a.m.
Right. Yeah.
Listening to all the problems.
So that got me started into it. I became, I don't want to say friends, but I became well acquainted with the city council at the time. And there was one city council member who had plans for me to run for their seat afterwards, and sat down, and they didn't know that I couldn't run for office because of my felony. So
which is like something, it's a whole other conversation, but that's something.
So I'm working on that, hoping to get a pardon on that sometime soon.
Do we believe in second chances?
Right. Right. I mean, it's the Department of Corrections. Have I been corrected or not?
Yeah. Right. Right.
So we can get into that, a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So I started to learn about that. I got connected with people. And then I became a policy fellow for the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Mm-hmm. So that was Amendment 4 in 2018, and it returned the right to vote to people with felony convictions.
Right.
And I know a lot of conservatives had issues with that because they thought it was just a big push from the left.
Yeah.
I was the conservative voice of that organization. I was going into communities that were predominantly overlooked by conservative candidates and organizations. And so I would go in and I would have those conversations about, this is what it is. And surprisingly, through my experiences through the prison system, there's a lot more people that are conservative than a lot of conservatives want to give credit for.
I'm sure we're not trying.
So,
you're right.
So I got to make a lot of really good connections to that. I got to do a lot of really cool interviews and do some more national type things. And then I got to vote for the first time in 2020 when it passed in 2018. So,
nice.
That's awesome.
So I was really excited about that. And just being able to share the story and share the love that really came from that movement, because the executive director, Desmond Meade, was always about, this isn't about politics, this is about people, and this is about the love of those people. So he is a great mentor to me, and Neil Voles, who's around here locally, is a great mentor to me. Really just focusing on people more than politics.
Yes.
And like you had said earlier, everything that I do is because it's things that I do. It's not because it's something I feel like I have to do. Mm-hmm. And I try to lead by example as much as possible.
Of course. That's what we should be doing.
And even in my church life, like, I tell people the Buddha led me back to Christ, and people look at me cross-eyed, like, I don't understand that. But it's about the journey. It's about learning as much as possible. I read every religious text I could because I wanted to be able to connect with people. That 3 years that I was essentially trying to commit suicide by partying myself to death, I did all these drugs. I'm able to connect with those people now. When somebody tells me, when I'm doing my mentor program, what their drug of choice is, I know exactly what they're going through because I've been there. Wow. So all of my experiences, whether good or bad, have led me to be able to connect with people on a much better level.
Sure.
So using all of those things now leads me to where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And just having this motivation and this work ethic that I want to help people, and I believe in people. The organization I worked for most recently was Americans for Prosperity, and they have a book called Believe in People. And it's about going out and just making those connections and getting people involved and finding not just where people's pain points are, because that's a lot of where sales is. Sales is a lot of find where people's pain points are. I want to find where people's like common points are. Like, what are the things we can work together on?
Right. What are you passionate about? Right. And how can we work together to move that? Yeah.
My first question in my mentor program is, I know you don't want to be here. What did 6-year-old you want to be? If you could be anything, what would you want to do?
Wow, yeah.
And now it makes them think like, man, when I was a kid, I always wanted to do this.
You can start over.
Yeah.
You can start over.
And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're like, I don't know, I never had a dream of anything other than what I've been doing. And one of my favorite stories was this guy he was one that didn't have an answer for that. And 2 weeks later when I come back, he's like, I want to open a flower shop.
Cool.
And I'm like, okay, where did that come from? He's like, well, I got thinking about what you were saying and got back to like when I was a kid, my grandmother owned a flower shop, and those are some of the best memories I have.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's like, not only can I do it for myself because I know it's something that I will love, but I can do it for my kids, but I can also honor my grandmother through this now. Yeah. So there was like all these different variables that were coming in to influence him at this point that he had never thought of before.
Right.
And so again, trying to lead by example, like these are things that I do where I try to think outside the box. I try to think of what's my motivation to do these things. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you know me personally, you know that I'm working on 25 different projects all at the same time.
Always, yeah.
Whether it's, some sort of technology or whether it's getting down in the dirt and helping somebody out of the gutter, I'm going to do whatever I can to see people succeed.
Yeah. I forget that you're an inventor. I forget that Lance is an inventor. He's a chef. He's an activist. He's a consultant. He's, you're like all kinds of things, which is great, right? Yeah. It's always good to have multiple talents.
The good side of ADHD.
Yeah. Focus on certain things and get it done.
So do you have ADHD, really? Yeah? You can't stay still?
No, I'm not.
You can't
I'm
focus?
Not still now, so.
Yeah. No.
So I've worked really hard at being able to focus. Again, something else that came from the prison system was I learned how to be at peace with myself.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like you're in solitary for 60 days and you have ADHD. I'm surprised you didn't like rip your skin off.
I wrote lots of letters to myself.
Yeah.
And I read as much as I read almost 500 books while I was in prison. So, and I wrote a little report about each one.
Wow.
So
is there any book you would recommend every person to read?
Atlas Shrugged.
Okay, great.
Okay.
The concept and the idea.
That's kind of a big one, though.
It is a big one.
I mean, you got the time. You're going to do it.
Small here.
Right. I mean, I was in prison when I read it, somebody sent
you had
it
all
to
the
me.
time in the world.
So it's something I didn't say that I should have at the beginning. I grew up in a Democrat household. My dad was the vice local chairman of the transportation union between Pittsburgh and Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
well, you have to leave now. The podcast is over.
Yeah, we're done.
And it was, so I grew up in this Kennedy household, and then as I got older and as the party started to shift, it was while I was in prison, I had a conversation with one of my bunkmates who was a strong conservative. And he's like, what do you feel about this? What do you feel about this? And all my answers were more conservative than liberal. And I finally made the decision to register as a Republican after I had gone through everything around here in Cape Coral. And I talked to every single elected official that would open their door to me because I had questions. I didn't know where I fit anymore, And finally, at one point, one of them just said, just shut up and admit you're a Republican.
Yeah.
And I was wearing a Banana Republic shirt that day that happened to have a little elephant on it. And I was like,
really?
And she's like, that's your sign. And I was like, all right. So I went and registered as a Republican that day. But I didn't just register one or the other because I felt a certain way. I went and did research. I went and found, where do my values actually matter? And that's why I am a part of the executive committee now, is because this is what matters to me, these values. And a lot of the issues that I work on are seen as more liberal issues, but we just going to leave it to the other guys to do it?
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up. And that's one of the reasons why I thought you'd be great, because some of the issues that you champion aren't traditionally left wing, but they're really great opportunities for the right to get on board and make actual change in our communities and in our backyards. If we are truly the ones that don't believe that the government is the answer to everything, then we have an obligation to step up and try to fix it ourselves, right? That whole volunteerism movement, I think that's very conservative, because if it's not us, then who's it going to be? And we can't always rely on the government to just handle our problems for us. I think too, the fact that you're always so involved in something, we all have the time. You just have to make the time. And I say this to people all the time. It's a little less that and a little more this. And whatever that is, if you dig deep enough, you can figure out what that is. That could be, Monday Night Football. Do you really need to spend 4 to 5 hours? Do you really need to be tailgating from, 12 to 3 and watching games from 4 to 8? If you want to every once in a while, sure. I'm just saying, like, if you really do want to make change, you've got to just learn how to do a little less that and a little more this. There's always time for it. And again, if we are truly conservatives, then we have an obligation to step up and try to fix some of our community's issues. And I love the whole prison reform movement. I've part of the reason why I work for the guy that I work for today, and the reason why I love Rand Paul, is because one of the things that Rand Paul tried to champion was federal prison reform after the Khalif Browder incident. Khalif Browder, yeah, or Khalif. I don't know why I'm thinking Khalif Browder. He was the young boy that went to Rikers for being accused of stealing a backpack. And he was there for years, and the system basically just forgot about him. And they finally got him out after he was like tortured in that place because he was just a little guy when he went, and he ended up committing suicide. And it's just an awful, awful story. But it's an example of how, we've ceded so much power to just the system. And then we assume, I guess what I'm getting at is we also just assume that if you're a felon, you're just a bad guy. So we're just not going to help felons, right? We're not going to do anything that we can to try and help people that have done things 20 years ago because they're just bad people. But anybody that's, I'm going to be 50 next year. And I think of how different I am today versus 5, 10, 15, let alone 20 years ago. So for us to not try and help people, and we're Christians, right? We're more than just Christians, but if we truly believe in the word, then we do believe in second chances. And so why aren't we championing these issues? And again, what do we have in common? How can we, as opposed to fighting with Democrats or fighting with each other, where do we have things in common that we can move the needle on together? And so that's what I'm hoping that you can help highlight. Here you are, a strong conservative, Republican, actively involved in the executive committee. Thank you for your help. We can't do a lot of the things that we do without volunteers. So I appreciate you always. Every time I reach out to Lance, I'm like, hey, can you do this? Yes. Can you help me with that? Yes. Can you join this committee? Or, it's always a yes. So I appreciate that so much. And I just appreciate your story and the way that you live your life, which is to be involved and be active. That is truly the conservative way. We're not looking for our elected officials to be the answer to everything. That's the other thing. Everybody wants the elected officials to do everything. What have you done first, right? And then once you can show that you've done everything that you can, then maybe we can, move it up the ladder. But nonetheless, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything, are there any particular organizations that you'd like to highlight? Is there anything that you'd like to share before we see Crest out?
I have taken a new position.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I am not even 100% sure what the actual title is, but I think it's Director of Operations.
I think it might be, yeah.
So Director of Operations for the Freedom and Virtue Institute,
right?
Which I am super excited about because the values of that organization line up directly. As I've been going through everything, learning, because I just got hired, it's almost everything that I did myself, but from a professional light. So I'm really excited to dive into that and start working on those things and essentially building what I've already been building at a much greater scale.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to say, like some of the stuff that I work on, like criminal justice and environment, are my two biggest things.
Right.
And I like to tell people like we need to do them right, like from the right. So otherwise we're just gonna let people that we don't want to do it be the ones that are the voices of that.
Right. Why do you think the EPA is a nightmare? Right. It's because we've just ceded it to the left. Yep. Same with education. We ceded it to the left.
So when I see people, I actually had somebody come at me one time because, I didn't post enough about Trump or I didn't post enough about something. And my argument back was, there are thousands of you posting about this. Why aren't you posting my stuff?
Yeah.
There's me posting my stuff.
Yeah.
So having that argument back of like, I'm going to work on the things that are most important to me. Of course, I'm going to support Trump. I'm going to support our elected officials. And I may, go against some of our elected officials, depending on if they're not doing what we think they need to be doing.
Yeah.
As it should be.
Yeah.
We should have civil discourse.
Yes. Civil.
But at the same time, I'm going to support everyone that supports me. And that's, that's how I pick my candidate. That's why I go talk to everybody. Like, there isn't a single CD19 candidate I haven't talked to at this point. And I have my opinions of each of them, you know, and I'll keep those to myself for now.
Yeah.
But I wish more people got involved in that way, where they go and they'd actually talk to people. The other thing about elected officials, they're not celebrities. They're not, so high up that you can't, like, that they needed to be kowtowed to. They're still they're your neighbors.
Just people. Yeah. They're literally your neighbors.
So,
Their dads, their moms.
Yep. So I encourage people that, are either apprehensive about getting involved or have been involved for a while, but have gotten, disillusioned by some of these things. It's like, go back and talk to everybody, make a phone call, stop by an office, go and do that one-on-one, get that FaceTime with them, because not only will you learn more about them. Anna Paulina Luna is one of my favorite stories, because I saw APL up on stage as the firebrand APL and just and then I went to her office and she was like the nicest, sweetest person. She was eating her lunch. She's like, "Do you want some of this?" I'm like, "No." She's cool. I saw her as this, like, this idol. I'll put it up there, of the celebrity side of what comes with being a congressional officer. And then to meet her in person, she was just like, "Hi."
Just a normal person.
And so that's what I try to really get people that want to get involved or want to volunteer and are apprehensive about it. It's like, man, they're just people. I've got to work on some cool campaigns in my history. So seeing the change and seeing the people and going and knocking doors. I will encourage everyone to go knock doors.
Oh,
nobody wants to do
learn knocking on doors. Woo.
Yep.
It's great though. It's eye-opening for sure.
I hit almost 25,000 doors over the last 3 years, and 11,000 of those were in 1 year. One person has gotten mad at me.
Really?
Where it was like they were really mad at me. It's because I woke them up. Like, they worked a midnight shift. Okay. So, like, I totally understand. But other than that, going to the doors and, like, just engaging with people and, how you present at the door, a lot of people will have even if they disagree with you, they will have a conversation with you. And those one-on-one conversations are where you can change minds. You can change hearts and minds that way. The phone calls and the phone banks, they're effective to get information, but it's not effective to really make a change. The last race I worked on that was really big was then Senator Jay Collins, now Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. I went into all the communities that were overlooked by the conservatives, and he ended up winning by 10 points.
Wow. Makes a big difference.
He has given me some kudos for that, so I appreciate that. But
good.
It's about getting involved. It's about getting in your neighborhood, meet your neighbors, talk to your neighbors. If you see an American flag out front, go thank them for hanging the American flag out front. I love knocking doors when I see an American flag, because
always good people.
Yeah, and you can pretty much guarantee that those are the people that are going to vote. They may not vote with you, but vote. The fact that they have the flag out in front of their house, even if they don't agree with you, means that they still stand for this country. And that's the biggest thing, is like fighting for this country, fighting for what's right, and just believing in people.
Yeah, it's really what it comes down to. And understanding that people are people. We're all humans. It's so much easier to hate someone on social media and to say the things that you say, as opposed to seeing them face to face. And so just always remember, thinking of if you're looking to impart influence and make change and do the things that we as conservatives are trying to do with our country, for our communities, it's just all about making sure that we're remembering that we're all human first. And, going back to the Freedom and Virtue Institute, that's what I love about that. The mission is it's all about love, approaching people with love first, seeing each other as humans first. And so that's what I'm hoping that we can get out of this podcast today. Yeah. Well, Lance, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to Lance Wissinger, and thank you to all of you for tuning in to this episode of the Chairs Chat. I am Mercedes Price Harry, your Lee County Chairwoman, and don't forget to visit us at www.leegop.org. Again, that's leegop.org, where you can find events and fantastic information, learn more about what's going on in the community. And thank you very much. We'll see you next time.